What's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Kayla, and on today's video, I'm going to be talking about the app Myfitnesspal. Someone reached out to me on Instagram and asked me to do a video about my personal journey with Myfitnesspal and the little tricks that I've picked up over the years. If you aren't following me on Instagram, I will leave my handle down below. I post everything that I'm doing in my life on Instagram if you guys want to go give me a follow. I have created a list of 5 helpful tips to help you navigate Myfitnesspal. So let's get started. My personal experience with Myfitnesspal is I started using it about 7-8 years ago when I got a coach for the first time. He put me on really low macros, like I'm talking 1,200 calories a day. It was very difficult for me in the beginning. I had no idea like what macros were even, how to track them. The first few days were for sure a struggle, and as time went on, I did learn more things about Myfitnesspal. I did learn more about food and the macro breakdowns for everything that is in food, so I found it a little bit easier. Nowadays, I am more tracking the calorie intake that I have instead of the macro breakdown, but I do still use Myfitnesspal to keep track of my food because I also still do weigh a lot of the things that I put into my mouth. I'm going to keep this video just strictly about Myfitnesspal in terms of like weighing macros and calories. You can use Myfitnesspal for a bunch of other different things, but this video is just going to be strictly about macros, calories, and the little tips that I've picked up on the way. So tip number 1 is always log as you go or before you eat something. There have been many times over the last few years that I have forgotten to log before I have eaten something, or I have waited until dinner time or late at night to finish my logging. I always end up forgetting something like a cookie that I've eaten or like the tomatoes that I had in my omelet. So if you log before you have eaten something, you will be able to remember everything that you have put into a meal so that you don't end up going over your macros at the end of the night. It has happened to me quite a few times where the next day or maybe even the second day, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I didn't track that candy, or I didn't track that cookie, or I didn't track that bowl of cereal because I just forgot, and then it put me a couple hundred calories over my macro target. That in the long run is so much worse for you because you don't want to keep forgetting. If you forget something every day or every other day, that can really stack up against your weekly calorie totals, and that can really be detrimental, especially if you're put yourself on a diet, especially if you've lowered your macros because you want to lose a few pounds. You'll end up hurting yourself in the long run. So tip number 2 is weighing is so important. Now I'm going to give you an example here to show you what I mean by this. So I have 2 blueberry bagels here. Now on the package it says for half a bagel it's 50 grams. So for one bagel you're going to assume that this is 100 grams. Now not only are you going to assume that this one bagel is 100 grams, but you're also going to assume every bagel in the container is 100 grams. Now when you actually put the bagel on the scale, wait till it sits 0 and then weigh it. You'll see that the bagel is actually 106 grams. So let's weigh the second bagel. So this bagel is also 106 grams. So you can see that even though these bagels are in this container that says it is 50 grams or 100 grams for one bagel, it is actually slightly more than 100 grams. So what does that mean in Myfitnesspal? When you log a 100 gram bagel, it comes up as 300 calories, 1 gram of fat, 62 carbohydrates, and 10 grams of protein. Now let's put in the actual 106 grams and let's see the difference. It's actually 318 calories, 1.1 gram of fat, 65.7 grams of carbohydrates, and 10.6 grams of protein. Even though it is only 18 over what it says on the package, it's still a big deal if you do this for every single thing that you eat. If you eat a bagel and you don't weigh the cream cheese, or you don't weigh, let's say you put cheese, those small bits of calories can add up, and then again at the end of your day, instead of eating 2,000 calories, which might be your goal, you're eating close to 2,300 calories. You want to make sure that everything is weighed out properly so that you're getting the actual macros that you intended to get. Tip number 3, I want to talk about why weighing is so important, kind of like a part 2. So I'm going to take this loaf of bread, for example. These 70 grams are for 2 slices, so you would assume that one slice is 35 grams. So I have one piece here that's 37 grams. It again shows you back to number 2 where weighing is so important, where you want to make sure that the grams on the bag match up with how many grams that you're actually consuming. And then the second piece here, slightly lower than 35, it is 32 grams. So again, the reverse here, where you want to make sure that you're weighing things properly, because if you are under eating, it could also be detrimental to your progress, and you want to make sure you're as accurate as possible. think the most asked question that I've ever gotten when it comes to macro tracking is how do you make it easy? So I have these containers here of grapes, and they all hold about 140 grams of grapes into them. And what I do when I go grocery shopping is I make sure to bring everything in, wash everything, weigh everything that I need for lunches ahead of time. That way I'm never stuck in a position where I can't weigh something or I won't be able to log something accurately. You can just go into your fridge or into your cupboard, grab what you need for lunch and just go. Doing this ahead of time can save you so much time. It could also save you a significant amount of stress if you are specifically tracking to get leaner and you need to be as accurate as possible. In the beginning, it could feel so daunting to go in and track all of those things, find the ingredients that you're looking for, scan all the packages that you have, but trust me, it gets easier. The last helpful tip I have for you is number 5, and that's talking all about restaurants and eating out. I have 2 tips kind of built into this one. So the first one, every well-known restaurant, especially the ones that have been around for a long time, if you think about for Canada, like Earl's, Montana's, Joey's, McDonald's, A&W, Tim Hortons, Starbucks, I guess those aren't restaurants, but those are like fast food places. You can go onto their website and they have everything kind of laid out and nutrition info, especially in today's world and in Canada. Some fast food restaurants have the calorie intake right next to the item on the menu, so you have a quick glance of how many calories you're about to consume. You're not going to be able to measure the grams that you have on your plate, and you won't be able to measure the serving size, so you kind of just have to go based on the website and hope that it is about the same grams, but it could also be lower and it also could be higher. So they do say that you should account about 10% more on that meal. Wait, I have to go do the math because I don't know. Let's say your meal is 1,200 and you want to add in about 10%, that is 120 calories. The more calories a dish has, the more you kind of want to account for that extra wiggle room just in case you go over. Of course, it's not a big deal if you do go over, but it does depend on your goals. If you want to be leaner, if you want to gain muscle, you want to make sure you stick to your calorie intake and your goals, your macro breakdown as much as you can. So number 1, going to restaurants, MyFitnessPal and their websites, especially the well-known restaurants, do have all of their nutrition information put up on their website. And then again, the second tip for going to restaurants is that you should account for at least an extra 10% over the amount, because you really can't measure what the server is bringing you, and you want to make sure you're as close to it as possible so you allow yourself that extra wiggle room. I hope you guys like the 5 tips and tricks that I have for MyFitnessPal. If you want to see more videos like this from me, please leave me a comment down below in the comments section. Tell me what tips and tricks you have for MyFitnessPal, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye!